is different about maybe opening cold in 2019 or, in 2018 even recently compared to maybe several years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago? Are there certain things that you think are different about now than maybe back in the past?
Yeah, I think social media has really changed in the past 10 years. Before, there wasn't all these patient reviews and these Google reviews, these Yelp reviews, and you should use them to your advantage. If you get a lot of positive reviews, that's how a lot of patients are making their decision on healthcare now. They don't want to go to the 1-star, 2-star, 3-star practice. They want to go to that 5-star practice.
I definitely agree with that. And I also think a big difference compared to even a decade ago is student loan burden. I graduated with student loans, so did my husband, and the interest rate is very high. I think that discourages a lot of new grads from opening their own practice compared to 10 years ago where the interest rate was high at 2%. So I think that's a major factor.
Where can I sign up for 2%, right?
I know. Anybody out there?
Compared to a decade ago to now, I think it's a lot harder, but also easier. Harder because there's a lot more competitors. You're talking about corporate optometry, subleases, and other private practitioners. But it's easier because you have Google. You learn how to open a practice, the pros and cons, how much it costs. You have Google where you can research everything, and we have access right in our fingertips to be able to get every information. Whereas before, you need to, where do I go? Where do I talk to someone how to open a practice?
Yeah, there's just so much more information out there, and even like when we were starting, looking at newgradoptometry.com, it told you pretty much how to eventually start a practice, and it had step by step of what to do. I mean, it couldn't really be much easier than that.
That's great to hear. And I would ask you next, what would you say was your biggest challenge?
The biggest challenge was really trying to get the loan for the location that we wanted, because our location, it's a very brand new shopping center. So it's anchored by a movie theater, it's got a Target, it's got a Harris Teeter, it's got all these restaurants, it's got these national brands. They initially did not want us to be there because we are a small private practice. They wanted the big guys, the big corporate practice, the ones who are proven themselves. So, for our experience, getting that first loan was kind of one of the big hard ones. And now, 2.5 years later, opening our second location, getting another loan on top of that was a little bit of a struggle for us.
It is hard. So we still have student loan debt, and we also have a considerable mortgage because we're already in our dream home. We have two children. So borrowing more money on top of having debt is very, very difficult. We believe in ourselves, but the underwriter may not. Also, as my husband mentioned, getting into a prime real estate location is very difficult. We actually had to use a family friend that's a commercial lawyer to represent us to even get the lease. They only wanted individuals with a net worth of $2 million to be in that shopping center. So we were able to bypass that, and we have him to thank. We had a backup location across the street at a Whole Foods shopping center that was a more regional shopping center. So it was very difficult to get that lease, but as we all know, that optometry is 60 to 70% retail, so being in a retail location really drives your business and helps you grow quicker.
The most challenging thing, I think, I totally agree with them too. I'm going to be repeating the same thing pretty much, but what I want to say, what's more challenging after we open cold, within the 10 months, is organizing everything. This is where the bills, this is where the lab orders go, kind of organizing the whole flow, where I can open my MacBook and be able to see my practice's pulse, and be able to see how much am I making, but how much am I keeping, what's my best lens, what's my best frame seller. Again, the challenges, like you guys just said, is exactly the same thing. Getting a loan, getting a location. But I just want to put a little 2 cents into after opening cold, within that year, what's most challenging?
So there's something that you mentioned, and I want to go back to it, and it was, you graduate with a lot of student loan debt, and you have a practice loan, and you had just mentioned that you're opening another location, right? And we'll go back to that too, but how, when you're starting out, how on earth do you pay the bills? when you're just starting and there might not be a lot of revenue there?
Exactly.
What do you
So
do?
someone has to be the sugar mama, as mentioned.
Right.
So we definitely
New grads,
have,
find yourself a sugar mama.
find yourself a sugar daddy. So we had another full-time job. So before I opened the private practice, I did 5 years at a family private practice with 3 offices. I learned a lot as an associate doctor there. My husband had 2 corporate subleases, which we no longer have. But that income from my husband's subleases fueled our family bills.
Probably.
Don't sleep.
Yeah.
Just work. We open 5 days a week, 3 doctor days. Other days, I'm at my other sublease, right? And then, luckily, we actually are busier than expected, so I dropped everything and went full time to my private practice and still be able to pay majority of bills. My wife was able to pay for the rent, but the practice was able to sustain its own bills, which is great.
Yeah.
And when we do have slow days, I usually fill in somewhere else.
Ours was like a little different. So we had the 2 subleases going on at the same time we opened that one cold. But maybe like a year, 1 year, we stopped having the subleases. But I mean, all that revenue and everything kind of just got pushed over and converted, and a lot of patients followed. So that helped a lot. But and also with 2, you got to feed both of us. So if we had to provide double income
Right.
off of one practice, which is very, very challenging. But we kind of I don't know, we sped up the whole process, the whole route, and it ended up working enough for us to open another.
Yeah, right. And I do want to talk about that. But before we do talk about that, how long would you say it takes to become profitable? So from when you open, I mean, I know that could be very, extremely variable, but typically, how long did it take before you actually started to see some, instead of red, maybe some black?
Exactly. So profitable is a really gray word because, of course, we still have practice debt. We have a practice loan, we have equipment loans, and we have an enormous amount of rent pressure every month, obviously, that escalates every year. But I would say we were cash flow positive month 2. We can pay ourselves a normal lower-end associate salary each starting 2019. We still have debt, but we're coming up now.
TBD.
Okay.
But my goal is to be profitable in end of year 2. We're doing very good, but the good thing is that we don't have to close. We still have money to pay for the bills.
Right.
The lights are on, so everything's good.
Right.
You basically have to negotiate with a lot of your vendors. They know you're a cold start, so they're taking a risk too. So if you can kind of spread out your payments and set up your loans in certain ways, so even though it might be longer and you may be paying more interest, it makes it a lot easier on a month-to-month basis to be able to pay your bills and keep your lights on, pay your employees, pay yourself. And obviously, as an owner, you're the last one. Technically, you're the last one being paid. So you've got to be able to handle that whole schedule of watching your cash outlay.
So what would you do differently opening your second location now in 2019 compared to 2016 now that you've had this experience? And then maybe, Chun, you can also chime in on that a year afterwards now, looking back, is there something you would do differently today than maybe when you first started?
You learn a lot those first couple of years. What works in one region may not work in another region. It's hard to say. I mean, our 2 offices will be about 15 minutes apart. That demographics are very different in just a term of 15 minutes. Income's a little bit different. Population's a little bit different. So we're going to find out exactly what works, but we did repeat a lot of the same things because we knew exactly the steps we did to open that first location. Vendors are all suddenly nicer to you now. You can get better deals because of everything, just because of now you have 2 practices. So we're repeating a lot, and we're really trying to find out what we might change a little bit. Do you have any input on here?
I wouldn't change too many things. One thing that I would change if I could, going back to my main location, is I wish we had more space because we're already outgrowing our space and we're 2.5 years in, but we cannot give up our prime location. So we have to find ways to grow with the space we have, and that is by opening a second location close by so we can funnel some of our existing patients there that may live closer to that side of town. In a couple years, I plan on expanding by opening an off-site center in a maybe cheaper area and move my edger to that location and doing a call center where they can pull insurance and file insurance off-site. And that will give us more room in our prime locations to serve patients and run our clinic.
I agree. More space.
Yeah.
We have about 2,020 square footage. It's pretty big for some, but I feel like we're outgrown it as well. But one thing that would change is probably hire an actual optician. So my current staff right now is my sister, and she's doing wonderful. She learned everything. So, but it was starting off cold would be a good optician.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's just space is at a premium, and you want to maximize your space to, and honestly, in your business to sell. And if that space isn't being used to sell, it's almost inefficient use of it. So if we can't get any bigger, so we had to really put another location where all our patients were being drawn from to attend that space. So that's what we had to think of, because our area that we're in, it's growing too fast, and we cannot keep up with it.
Yeah, well, that's probably a good thing then, right?
It's
In
a great
thing.
Everyone says
Great
it's a great
to
problem,
have.
but it's still a problem.
It's still a problem.
Right.
That gives me three things that I'd like to talk about, and you mentioned one of them, John, and that was staff. When you're first starting cold, you probably don't have a need for a lot of staff, right? So what's the ideal staff count, you could say, right, to start out with? And then how do you know that it's time to hire additional staff? When do you reach that point?
When we first opened, it was just one. Me and my sister slash GM slash technician slash slave slash everything. So me and her did everything. Because we see like 3 patients a day, sometimes 4. And then once we start seeing consistently 5 to 6 patients a day, I added on a half, a part-timer on the busy days. So when she's teching, someone's answering the phone, putting the orders in,
So we had a general manager, a practice manager, 1 front desk, 1 tech, and 1 optical. Our modality allowed us to grow pretty quickly. Our hours are very competitive with the neighboring private practice. We were open Saturdays, so that allowed us to grow quicker. So probably 1 to 2 months in, I was adding another full-time staff and another part-time staff. Right now, we're up to about 8 staff. With the new office, I just hired 3 more staff that are starting in April, and I'm going to divide the senior staff between the 2 locations. That office is slightly smaller footprint, and we may only start with 3 to 4 doctor days versus 6. So we'll probably staff that office with 3 staff on the doctor days and then 2 staff on the days that don't have a doctor.
Yeah, I mean, not every location is going to start with that many staff. We feel like we started with a lot more than everyone else. But in our zip code, there was really only two other offices.
There's 2 offices in our entire zip code, which is pretty large zip code. One is a corporate location that was bought over, and another is a family practice that's been there for 10 years, another husband and wife. And I think that they're great people and they're busting from the seams. So in terms of new patients, even if we split 50-50 new patients to the area with them, we would still be growing at a rapid rate. Our whole area is brand new construction. New homes are being built every day, so it's
New
a lot
shopping
of
centers are
transplants coming
built
into
right
the
there.
area.
It also helped that she actually grew up in the zip code that our office is in. So she's already been there. She knows the people. She knows, everyone around the area. So that really helps sped up everything.
So that answers a good question as to when you're starting cold, how do you get new patients? How do you get patients in your door at all? And in your case, you shared some of those things that helped. But in your case, what are you doing to market your practice in 2019?
Online. Facebook, Google, Instagram, maybe soon Snapchat, Nextdoor app, Yelp. A lot of online. We spent a lot of money before we even opened doors in developing a website so we can get our footprint on Google search engine. And yeah, no more yellow pages.
Yeah,
They,
right.
they stopped printing about a year ago, I think,
Yeah.
right? But that's how I market. And when I see patients, whether it's teachers, I educate about, hey, importance of child exams. If I see IT people, I'll talk about computer vision syndrome. So they talk amongst their other colleagues, hey, this doctor, made my eyes a lot easier to work with these dual screens, whatever. So word of mouth is still very, very big, but definitely online presence.
I definitely agree with that. I went to your website. It's really, really nice, really user-friendly. It shows exactly what you offer and insurances that you take. So I definitely agree. Having a website is absolutely the number one thing you should start with. We also did mailers the first 1.5 years. Our shopping center also does a mailer every quarter with coupons inside, so that's pretty helpful as well.
Our online reviews, like I said, they speak for themselves. If you can somehow make your patients leave you a good review, our office now has about 250 Google reviews in the past couple of years.
That's awesome.
That makes so much easier. I mean, yes, the word of mouth is very effective. That works great. Being in the community, that works great. Us having a couple kids, and we're at all these events everywhere around, that brings in patients. Once people know who you are, you become that go-to person in that area. So being active in the community, but as well, the website, the social media, all of that, everything together,
Yeah. I forgot to mention that people love stories. We're just not another eye doctor practice. They know about us. When I came back from my honeymoon, all the patients that I miss and all the patients that are picking up glasses, like, how was your honeymoon? We're real people. I always tell my patients that I'm not a doctor. I'm just a regular person that knows a lot about eyes. I'm just like you. I talk the same. I cuss in the exam room sometimes, and they love that. They have so many choices. They can go anywhere, but they see that this is a small business, and these are doctors are also human beings and actually like normal people, and they are more than willing to support you.
Right.
To have a story.
Yeah, creating relationships with everyone. I mean, I go to the gym every morning. I see 6 patients every morning at the gym. I mean, just little things like that make a huge difference.
I have gym T-shirts.
Yeah,
Right
really?
here. Yes, I do.
That's smart. That's marketing.
Really good.
That's great marketing. There you go. There's another thing that crosses my mind, and our bread and butter has always been refractions, contact lenses, and you hear a lot about the medical model now, and that's the way. We got to practice medical. We've got to do specialties. We've got to do vision therapy. We've got to do something to kind of separate ourselves, something to help the practice grow. But in 2019, is that the case, or is optical dispensing, contact lenses, glasses, is that still a perfectly viable way to open cold?
We try to do everything, but there's 2 of us, so we can kind of split things. She likes glaucoma, you can have glaucoma. You like pediatrics under 5, you can have all the pediatrics under 5.
I give you mine too.
I love the kids.
Yeah.
I mean, I like scleral lenses.
Pediatrics for me has become under 15. I'm like, under 15,
Yeah.
pediatrics.
Yeah, I like sclerals, I like ortho-K, I like RGP. I think having those services does differentiate you. So you do get much more unique experiences, something that's not easily reproducible in, commercial locations sometimes.
Is that something you feel like you could start with right away? So if you're opening cold and you want to do this glaucoma management, and you need a visual field, an OCT, equipment like that, is that something that you can start with, or because a lot of people say, well, look, you want to just have the things you need to open your doors, right? And then you can add that stuff as you go. So did you, for instance, did you guys say, hey, you know what? We want to do this. This is where we see ourselves. We're gonna just do it right now.
We went all in.
All in. Okay.
We went all in.
Okay.
We had the
No other way to do
OCT,
it.
we had the visual field. I mean, we were like, this is it. We're going to make this our practice.
Yeah.
We're going to be full scope from the very beginning. And not every practice has to do that. I don't think you have to do that, but we did.
And do you feel that contact lenses, dispensing, it was still kind of what carried you, at least initially, through those,
Of course.
Of course.
From a revenue standpoint, our practice is about 68% retail, and that includes the sale of glasses, sunglasses, and contact lens. So that's still our bread and butter. At the end of the day, no one will come to you if you can't do a perfect refraction. That's still your end-all, be-all. Compared to our previous commercial locations, our prescriptions are much harder. People can't do their prescriptions online if they're a -9 with 3 diopters of SIL. So our prescriptions have evolved, and you have to get them right. Our population is slightly on the younger side. I would say our average patient age is about 38, 39 with 1 or 2 kids. So I'm not doing as much glaucoma as I would like, but you have to adapt to your environment and be flexible in what you offer.
Talk about go big or go home.
Yeah.
Y'all got everything.
Yeah.
I stayed home. All right? I start off very small. I got all the digital stuff, digital lane. Definitely the fundus photography. I think that's definitely a must.
Yeah.
But I did not add on, till this day, no OCT or visual field, because I kind of know my demographic in my practice, but I want to be able to provide what I see. I always ask patients, what is it that you feel that we're missing here? Because I always tell them, it's not my practice, it's your practice. I'm here for you, for the community. So if I see certain things that I need, like a visual field or OCT, I will get it later. But as of right now, we are doing very well with the optical sales, and they trust us, and it all begins in the refraction. So
Exactly.
Correct. Optical does well. You just have to do it better than everybody else does. Your service has to be better than everybody else does. Yeah, I don't think you necessarily need all that fancy equipment to begin with. It's nice to have, but I would say the best ROI, the best return on investment for extra machinery is the fundus photography.
yes.
Absolutely. That's very smart because patients love to see what you're talking about. Another piece of equipment I would add straight away is an anterior seg camera. It's pretty inexpensive. You can get it attached to your slit lamp or built in. That we use all the time, and people really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's great for patient education when they can actually visibly see what you're talking about instead of trying to explain in words that they may not understand at all.
Picture's worth 1,000 words, right?
Correct.
To those who might be thinking about opening cold, maybe having doubts, right? It's competitive now. There's more competition than before. It's very challenging. There's a lot of student loan debt. What would your advice be to those thinking about opening cold in 2019?
It's a lot of work, a lot of planning, a lot of processes that have to be put in place. But if you're willing to do this, you'll have such great results. Financially is one thing. I just think it's a great way to go.
Optometry is definitely changing. It's true, it's not the same as a decade ago or definitely not 2 decades ago. But if you want to put in the work and it's your passion, I think there shouldn't be anything stopping you. Just be smart about your decisions, ask for help if you need it, and be flexible.
If you're hesitating, don't do it.
Right.
Trust me, don't do it. No, just
Yeah.
kidding. I think that if you're thinking about opening cold and you're getting a little hesitant, I think you need to rethink that. When I wanted to open cold, I didn't have any hesitation. I'm like, maybe it's a little cocky, or maybe a little confidence, but I was like, I'm doing it. I'm not doing it for financial reasons. I'm doing it because I want to help people. I felt that my community needed a personalized eye doctor. Not that other eye doctors in corporate are bad, it's just that there's some patients that need that personal touch, right? So I did it for the community. I did it for them. I did it for the patients. I also did it for my wife. I didn't want her to be working all the time, even though she loves doing it. And the financial will come later. I just love helping people. If you felt like you can't help people in your current setting, find another job or open your own. And if you want to open your own, you have to understand that it's hard. It's hard. And if you can't go to sleep without thinking about, should I open cold? Should I open cold? Do I want to do this? Take another year and kind of until you get to that point where, you know what? I can't sleep until I find a place that I can open. That's what I think.
Yeah. I mean, everything's constantly evolving, so we're constantly having to change along with it. But if this is something that you truly want to do and you've got the right mindset for it, I say do it.
For the new grads that really want to open goal, I just say when you graduate, work somewhere. Work at private practice, work at retail, work at, get a sublease. See if this is what you really want. You know, if you don't like this, you're not committed to it. Maybe a year contract, right? And then you don't like the retail, go sublease. You don't sublease, do private practice, do partnership. Get out there, get your hands dirty, and figure out what you don't want, because eventually you figure out what you really want.